So to start on this, I'm first going to make sure that I have the pH comparison live script and the comparison tool both in the same folder. Starting out, I'm going to CLC and clear, so I'm not getting any unused data in my workspace. I'm going to read my image in. I'm then going to show the image. I'm going to title it, which is going to help me understand what steps I should take as far as selection. This code right here is going to allow me to click on the functional image to select points. I then am going to go in and I'm going to round all the values. So if I clicked between two, I'm not getting 0.5, I'm getting integers. I'm then going to go in and develop a matrix, which is the length of my selections, which is going to be 3 wide, and that's going to store my red, my green, and my blue values. I'm then going to use a for loop to address each of the points that I've selected, and so I'm just doing it for the length of my total selections. And what's going on here is I am pulling out for the first location what's on that first layer, which would be my red. For my first location, what's on that layer, on the second layer, which would be my green. First location, what's on my third layer, which would be my blue. And then I'm developing them into an array to where I can store them all into a singular matrix. My last step here is I'm going to develop another array, which is just going to be the number of tests that I did or samples that I took. And I'm just going to develop an array that is 6 for that many long. So in other words, if I took 5 samples, it's going to be 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. And then I'm going to repeat the process. Notice that this time I'm changing and I'm checking for 7s. I'm going to go in and get my points. I'm going to select those points. I'm going to round them again. This is having that matrix developed again out of zeros. This is pulling them out for RGB. This is again setting them out to be a matrix. I can then sit there and I'm having my result. And what it's doing is it's taking my initial one, which was all those 6s, going to the next position, and then adding it the length of all my selections and just making the rest of them 7. And so it's a long way of saying that we're going to have the number of our first selections as 6 and the number of our second selections as 7. So it should be 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. And I'm going to take that and convert that into rows rather than columns so I can work with it in a moment. We're then going to develop a matrix which combines my values for 6 and 7 into a matrix called train. I'm then going to combine those into a single matrix that I can store into Excel. And so if I leave and I come back, I want to be able to pull up that data again. And so in this, I'm taking my results and my train right there, my training data. My last step is I am developing a classification tree right here, where I'm taking the training data and I'm splitting it up by the results, and then I'm asking it to visualize that for me, and I should get a tree that looks similar to this. Let's go ahead and run this. I'm going to click run. And it says select edge cases for 6, and so I want to select cases here that are within the body and also in the gradient portion on the side. The more points the better. I can then click enter. Notice now that it's telling me to select edge cases for 7. So I'm going to go in and select those. Again, the more the better. I'm going to push enter again. In this situation, it said, hey, if I just take the first value, which would be red, any value that is less than 129 is going to be a 7. Any value that's greater than 129 on our red is going to be a 6. Let's look at some of the things in the code just so we can see what's going on. We'll get out of that. The nice thing is using a live script, we can see what's going on. And so I can see right off the bat, these are the values I selected. So I selected 12 the first time. I then can see that it developed this matrix for me, which we have filled with values. I should see that those are all different. And here what's going on is it's going in and selecting those locations and storing those values up. to be able to set into a row that we would then put into the values for 6. Here's that matrix I was talking about a moment ago with result. Where notice it's all 6 there. Notice it does have that continues on because it does have the 7s already attached to it now. This is the repeat. Here's that lengthy way to do it. And if I go into here, I can see it further where it's 6s and then 7s. Let's look at the Excel data real fast. We just open that up. And we can see that we have all of our values right here and the values that they relate to. And then all of our 7s right here and the values that were selected there. My next step is I'm going to use this fig tree. So in other words, less than 129. So I'm now going to develop an identification tool for that. And it's just going to be an if statement, which is x1 is less than 129. If that's true, I'm going to get pH is 7. And if not, I'm going to get pH is 6. Once I have that built, I do need to go and select a point from my matrix. The way I feel is easiest is to go in, use the image tool, which I'm going to do. And I'm just going to pull a value right out of the middle of the 6 right here, which is going to be 300 by 400 roughly. And I'm saying 173, 84, 43 for my values. So I'm going to pull out that point. And we should see 73, 184, 43. What it's doing is it's going in, it's taking all those values. And again, since it's RGB, we have a red layer, a blue layer, and a green layer. And this is pulling those out. Red's on the first layer, blue's on the second layer, green's on the third layer. It's setting it up to be an array, which I can then work with. What's going on is at that first point, again, is the red. This is the green and this is the blue. And I'm going to have those correspond to x1, x2, and x3. And then I can then send that into the code. And so when we saw this, I went in, I did a pH 6 right into there. And so let's run and see if it will do what we're expecting it to do. And so it worked. It said that first value is not less than 129. And so it's going to be a pH of 6. And so we can see that this is working for us. Further steps would be, I could sit there and build out data for between each of these, and then whenever I select any point, it would allow me to know what the pH is 0 through 14. Or I can also just focus on different areas where I know my pH might be really volatile and build up that data. The more data that I have, the better it's going to be. All right, good luck with it.